Welcome back. Compassion fatigue. You're doing it wrong. This is part 3 of a 3-part video series about compassion fatigue. So when someone uses the phrase compassion fatigue, nearly everyone who hears that phrase knows immediately what it means. Whether you've experienced it yourself or not, you've got a pretty good idea what it is. If you're responsible for caring for people who are struggling or suffering or going through some really rough stuff, you set yourself up to experience compassion fatigue when your emotional boundaries blur and you begin to absorb the feelings of distress that another person is feeling. People who experience compassion fatigue feel overwhelmed and exhausted as their baseline when they're undistracted. They have recurring and often intrusive thoughts of the person or the people who are in distress or who are suffering that they've come in contact with or are serving. They feel like there isn't anything that they can do. They feel helpless even when they are skilled and highly trained to help. They become hyper-vigilant. They are so aware of the suffering of others and of the emotional impact on themselves that it is as though they feel feelings before they exist. It's almost like we say they hear the dog that doesn't bark, and they're always ready. And that hypervigilance itself causes a bit of anxiety for them. They also begin to withdraw from friends and loved ones in an attempt to avoid those draining situations, and they find themselves feeling apathetic when people around them are around them at all. It's almost like a new baseline for them to feel apathetic whenever they're around people. They notice mood swings. They notice their own mood swings. They go from disconnected to very irritable. They go from very sad to almost giddy. They go from hyper energetic to lethargic. They notice wider mood swings than they used to have. They become fearful, sometimes irrationally so, and then they begin to over-control themselves and as much as they can imagine around them in order to make sure that they don't have those experiences. Sounds fun, huh? So in parts 1 and 2 of this compassion fatigue series, we found out that the primary contributor to compassion fatigue is our own mindset. It's how we think about compassion that sets us up for compassion fatigue. And many of us think that compassion is primarily a set of emotions. We use words like empathy. We think it's a feeling of sympathy or of empathy for another person's suffering or difficulty. We feel like it's an emotional drive, it's a passion, and it's a need to do or to say something to relieve someone else's suffering and to relieve our own suffering, which we're categorizing as emotional suffering. Compassion fatigue sets in when all those feelings that we're having around a person that we might be trying to help turn against us. So as we've studied compassion fatigue for a while, our focus has mostly been on those who do not experience compassion fatigue, especially when they're in the same settings as those who do experience it and report it. So we study the ones side by side. These have experienced it and reported and suffer from compassion fatigue of some sort. These folks in parallel situations do not. These are the ones that we studied, and here's what we found. There seem to be maybe 6 differences that they have that set them up to be people who actually avoid compassion fatigue. Here they are. 1, they think of compassion as an action, not an emotion. 2, they take the long view. They want people to be better in the long run. 3, they work in groups. They think of compassion as action and a team sport, not an individual sport. 4, they carry only what they can carry and they do it well. They have what we call an internal locus of control mindset. They know that they can control and are therefore responsible for whom they trust, what's their perspective, and what's their behavior. What are they doing right now and what are they choosing right now? That's called an internal locus of control mindset. So with that, they carry what only they can carry, and they do it well. 5, they have what Friedman calls a non-anxious presence. Now unpack this with me just a minute. This means if you have a non-anxious presence, that you have what we call emotional regulation. That means that they can manage their own emotions, or you can manage your own emotions and your own reactions, and you don't let external factors create anxiety or reactivity, if we call it that, on your part. You do not have what we call maladaptive emotional regulation habits. You can manage your own emotions largely without the storms of other people's emotions affecting you profoundly or deeply or for long periods of time. So becoming a non-anxious presence means you have good emotional regulation. You also have what we call self-differentiation. This means you have a clear understanding of your own values, your own beliefs, your own personality, and this is me, and then you understand that that is you over there, and we're not the same person. You also have a calm demeanor. Now, this is a discipline to remain calm and composed as an outward appearance, regardless of your inner stressors. You're never somebody who's accused of being a drama queen or a drama king. And you manage your own emotions and you don't let them lead you around by your emotional nose, so to speak. If you're a non-anxious presence, it means you're also a very good active listener. You are relatively undistracted and you're present in conversations. You're not doing time travel and riding the worry ship out into the future. You're right here and right now. And you're really good at listening. You've developed that skill. To be a non-anxious presence also means that you have very clear boundaries. I will do this. I won't do that. I can do this well. I cannot do that. And you may say it out loud or you may not. This is my part, this is your part. Think of a physical therapist who is helping somebody recover from a significant injury, and they have to take somebody through physical therapy that is going to cause significant pain to that person. And if the physical therapist feels like they have to feel what the other person is feeling, they will not be a good physical therapist because they have very clear boundaries. This is me, this is you. So if you're going to also be a non-anxious presence, you are compassionate with your actions, but you're not entangled. You're not all meshed into the situation that the person is a part of, especially if it's a situation where you're caring for somebody and they have family or friends around them and you're not all pulled into that family system. You also don't take responsibility for other people's emotions or reactions. If someone says, you made me mad, you actually don't believe that. I did not make you mad. I did this or said that. I didn't do this or didn't do that. I did not make you angry. I'm not the cause of your emotions, for example. And finally, if you're a non-anxious presence, you have a consistently positive influence, especially on small groups of people. When you show up, when you walk into a situation, people are less anxious because you're there. And you don't have a calm effect as an antidote to anxiety. What happens is you give people courage, because courage is the antidote to anxiety. Calm has never been. All right, here's the 6th thing we've learned when we studied folks who have gone through significantly traumatic situations where they're helping other people out and they've not become subject to compassion fatigue. Here it is, number 6. They watch out for 5 dangerous core beliefs. Here they are. I have to be perfect. I have to be there for anyone who needs me. I have to be in control. I need people to like me and approve of me. And I have to be right. So if you actually believe those 5 or 2 of those 5, then you will set yourself up eventually to suffer from compassion fatigue. Look at one of our other set of videos called Overcoming Leadership Anxiety, where you can hear where that is all developed, and I give lots of credit to Steve Cuss, who is a really good thinker in this arena. So, how do you think about compassion? Let me boil it down for you. This may help. Here are 4 questions you ask yourself. Number 1, am I doing the compassionate thing? Because compassion is action. not a feeling. If you are, you're setting yourself up to avoid compassion fatigue. You'll be much more resilient. Second question, will this thing I'm doing, will this action I'm taking for this person pay off for a person now and later? Compassion is about taking the long view. I'm here to help now and later, not just now. Compassionate actions make people stronger in some way over time and not weaker. Here's the third question. Am I doing what the person in need can do and should do? Compassion is about doing what only you can do, and they do what they are responsible for. Here's the fourth and final question. Am I carrying the work of compassion all by myself? If so, I'm missing out here. I might setting myself up to become compassion fatigue victims, so to speak, because compassion is a team sport. So pay attention to these disciplines of thought and of action, and you'll not succumb to compassion fatigue. If you approach compassion this way, it's an action that we do together with somebody, you will be genuinely compassionate. So, compassion can be hard, but don't make it harder than it needs to be, because we really need you to succeed in the role you're in. Keep it up. Here's to you.